Good morning and welcome to Astronomical Revelations with your host, yours truly, Lenny. I'm glad you're listening today because today I'm going to explain a very big problem in Western societies, our society in particular, but in general, Western societies, and that is the cause of atheism. The cause. Okay? You don't have to be a churchgoer or a non-churchgoer or anything like that to listen to what I'm saying, because it's very important to understand how these things come about, okay? And the biggest cause of atheism is the church, okay? The biggest cause of atheism here in the United States is the church itself. And yes, those fallible individual human beings who do their sermons and their masses in the church are indeed flawed human beings, okay? And that's so key to understand this, because one of the things that creates the modern atheist, which if you've listened to my podcast before, you'd know that I don't believe atheism is correct. I didn't say I thought atheism was wrong. Okay, I didn't say that. I didn't say atheism is wrong. I think it is incorrect. So not only do I believe that there is a God, that there is God, but I think, based on all the evidence that I have observed in my 40s, okay, throughout my life, based on all of that evidence, I think and I believe and think that God is real, okay? So if you have to use that word science, okay, so I believe in God and I scientifically agree with the reality of God. Now, the point here is atheism, while it is wrong, I don't think it is morally, I don't think you have a moral flaw if you are an atheist. I think the problem is that you have concluded wrong in your life. And when I was young, I dabbled in atheism. When I was a teenager, I dabbled in atheism. And when I was in college, I dabbled in atheism. Everything about atheism was incredibly attractive to me. So I sought out individuals and professors and other people who had a similar opinion. And we shared our opinion, and it was, there were very common threads in this opinion, getting together and talking about the evidence. And gosh, yeah, don't you think it's just so silly when they say that on the third day Jesus rose. He rose from his tomb, moving that immense stone by magically, and rose from the dead and was resurrected. And I've never seen anything like that. And have you ever seen anything like that? Have you ever heard anything like that? And that doesn't even make any sense physically. And those conversations were common and enjoyable. And especially, and here's the key, when they had to do with sin, the topic of sin. And when you're in your teens and your 20s and stuff like that, and your hormones are going crazy, and drinking alcohol's the most fun you can possibly imagine, and then you go, oh gee, but at church they say that that's all horrible stuff, and man, well, gosh, I mean, doing those things, booze and alcohol and drugs and everything that you can think of in college and stuff like that, I mean, how can I give that up? And so there's an enormous conflict there. But the truth is that years before, you were already thinking about atheism while you sat in church, or while you read church things, or while you listened to church people. And what I want to say about that, what's so important to say about that is, that reality, that phenomenon is not a God problem. It's a church problem. It's not a Alpha Omega problem. It's a preacher problem. It's not a universality and the totality of everything that exists problem. It's a institutional delivery, interpretation, communication, preaching problem. And any preacher, whatever your persuasion happens to be, if you are listening to this, which may or may not, but if you were listening to this as a preacher, you would take constructive criticism. You should take constructive criticism. You see? You should take constructive criticism. All right? And they don't. They don't do it well. And they're very, very black and white about Scripture. And this is the enormous problem with the modern church, with the Christian church, with the church in America, is that they have no wiggle room or flexibility when it comes to the gospel. And that is not correct. That is not correct. Now, I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm not saying it is morally wrong. I'm saying that it's incorrect. Okay? Big difference here. I'm really not so much making a moral argument, other than I think preachers, if this is probably the only moral argument that I really am making, is I think preachers should do a better job. Okay? That's probably the only moral argument that I'm making. Other than that, I'm trying to explain why and how atheists are created predominantly in the U.S. And it's because of the church. Ironically, it's because of the church. It's because you go to church as a young child, teenager, 20-something, and you are forced to make a black and white choice. And here's the crux of the problem. They don't allow you to say, I'm 99% Christian. Okay? And that's creation of atheism 101. And that's the problem. They do not allow you to say that. They do not allow you to say that I am 99% Christian. And I want to tell you, the most often cited